Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Grupe Project. Today's going to be the final interview in this first series of fireside chats. For this one, I asked the great Gtripp14 to sit down and chat with me for an hour or so we could talk about Hollow's End, as well as some other stuff I have in the pipeline. Please feel free to leave any other questions you might have for me in the comments, and I'll try to answer all of them. Also, if you have any suggestions for authors who you'd like to see me interview on this channel, let me know. Okay, hope you all enjoy my hour-long chat with Gtripp14.
And I'm just going to introduce you for the comedy of introducing you on your own show.
All right.
Thanks for checking in, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Ryan Major. You may know me as Gtripp14 on Reddit, and I have been invited here today by the incomparable Jordan Group to interview him. It's an honor to talk to him any chance that I get, and Jordan doesn't get the attention that he deserves. So today we're going to flip the tables on him, and I'm going to ask Jordan some questions. So, Jordan, thanks for the opportunity to sit down and talk to you, man. How's everything been going?
Oh, it's been going good, man. No complaints here. How's everything going with you?
Oh, it's well, the tariffs have been great. I'm really enjoying those. So, other than
Aren't
that,
we all?
things are. Yeah, oh yes, it's glorious. Other than that, man, doing really good. Always glad to get some time to sit down and talk to you. So, tell me, what are you doing these days? What's going on with the channel? What's going on with your writing? Give us some information.
So yeah, I've just been working on some new Hollow's End stuff. I did a story a couple weeks back that was working on for about a month about a hunting humans type situation at a mall. It's kind of like a horror comedy. So I was happy that came out. It's been doing pretty well. Um, still doing like daily posting basically on YouTube.
All right. So you mentioned Hollows End, which is one of my absolute favorite things that you write. Everything is great, but that is to me that is the Jordan Group City on a Hill. It is just good stuff. And one of the things that I absolutely love that you do with Hollows End, they are scary. They're unsettling. Hollows End is a really terrifying place to think about living. Uh, but it's hilarious. So,
Thanks, man.
oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So, my question to you is explain to me, how do you find ways to marry horror and suspense with so much comedy? Because they're genuinely funny stories.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, like I kind of I kind of emulate some writers that I really enjoy, like Gas Station Jack, big favorite of mine. Uh, Jason Pargin, who does the John Dies at the End books, big fan of those. So I don't know, I kind of like writing the same sort of things that I read, and yeah, so I kind of will think of you know a scary story, and then I just kind of have these characters like the sheriff and the deputy Randy in Hollow's End who kind of just create their own humor almost. They just feel like living people almost, and I don't know. It's like at a certain point, I don't know if you've had this where it just feels like the characters kind of just write themselves, and they're just funny and they're just doing their own. They're just living their own life kind of thing, and it's just you're just kind of taking a glance at them through the window almost, and it's like the comedy almost seems to write itself sometimes.
That's true. That's one thing that I've always enjoyed about your work, whether it's a Hollow's End or thing else that you've done, is the you don't write the same characters over and over, and I feel like that's something that you see a lot in our little niche brand of horror writing is reliance on writing really similar characters over and over out of a comfort place, but you really especially in Hollow's End. If you're listening and you have not checked out the series, you really need to dig into it. There's over 16 hours worth of narration at this point, I do believe, and your characters don't ever seem repetitive. The setting is so well built that, of course, you feel familiar seeing the town again, But how is it that you find so many different ways to characterize these people? You know, you say you feel like you're looking in at little moments in their life, but what's your process for character design when you're bringing somebody new into the story?
That's a really good question. Well, one thing that helps a lot is the Patreon. I have a Patreon where if you sign up, you stay for 3 months. I'll name a character after you in the town. So along with this, I've asked people, give me some suggestions, some kind of hints of things that you would want your character to be doing or what you would like them to be like. And some of those suggestions have really informed the stories. Like I'll give you an example. There was one character, the real life person sent me details for the Patreon character saying they like to craft miniatures, basically, or they like to carve little soldiers, like foot tall miniatures. So I said, oh, that's an interesting hobby, and I think I just watched the movie Toy Soldiers recently because I think it was in my head. And when she said that, I immediately was like, "Oh, that could fit in really well with the story." And it ended up being the sheriff goes to her house, and there's these little toy soldiers, these little foot tall miniature soldiers guarding this woman's house that she designs and she sculpts them and everything. And it kind of ended up taking over the whole story, where the whole story ended up becoming this kind of toy soldiers situation, or small soldiers, whatever the movie's called. A similar situation to that, where these small soldiers are kind of causing havoc throughout the town and things like that. So, like, that's one example where I just get a name, maybe a few details, and then I kind of just start brainstorming, like, how could this fit into the story, or what would be a cool way to attack this or approach this particular character and their characteristics.
Well, man, that is a great in-depth reasoning on that, and suddenly I can visualize how you'd probably recently watched that Small Soldiers movie. Which, if you're not old enough to remember that, if you're listening out there, I think Small Soldiers came out in the what, Jordan, the mid '90s.
I feel like, yeah, probably mid or late '90s, maybe. Yeah, I was probably a kid or a teenager.
I'm going to be a terrible, terrible interviewer and use my keyboard there and get a lot of background noise. Yeah, that's from 1998. I was a freshman in high school. Holy cow. So yeah, if you need to see some of the inspiration for Hollow's End, go check out 1998's Small Soldiers. It was a very entertaining yet mildly terrible movie.
I was surprised how violent it was, like how kind of grown up it was for like a kids movie. I don't know if it's technically a kids movie, but yeah, like there's those toy soldiers are kind of terrifying in that movie.
Oh yeah, they absolutely are. And I think what Tommy Lee Jones was the voice of one of them, wasn't he? Which he's just like one of the most intimidating humans I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
he's a scary dude.
let's see what Small Soldiers is rated here. We're really getting off topic, but now I just want to know.
I'm kind of curious now. Was it PG-13 or was it for? It was probably PG-13.
It probably was. All right. Let's see. I'm not as good at looking stuff up on the fly as I once was. So let's see. Looking on IMDb, can't find the rating. Well, I won't drag it on too long. I'm probably gonna keep looking here in the
PG rated
background.
PG-13 for some menacing action and violence and brief drug references.
Oh man, well I don't remember the brief drug references, but I can say that menacing violence was definitely there. But I'm
Yeah, there
glad
were.
you. I'm go, go ahead, man. Sorry.
That's okay. I was just gonna say there were a few scenes where I was like, "Holy shit, this is for kids." This movie, like watching it as a grown up, it's like,
Oh man,
"Whoa."
it was a different day. I'll tell you actually, and I'll try to keep talking about myself pretty brief. But I was, our oldest son turned 7 this week, and he has really gotten into like movies that I liked when I was a kid. So of course that's a joy for me. We've busted out the old Transformers movie from the 80s. Just really getting into this old stuff that I liked as a kid.
Mhm.
And so I was like, well, man, the Goonies. I loved that when I was a kid. So I was like, I'll give it a quick rewatch and, try to look at it through a dad lens. And so I don't I'd made it maybe like 20 minutes into the movie and I was like, "Oh no, there's no way I can let him watch the Goonies right now." Like I'll have to wait until he's a little older. And then I think like I know that's the age I was when I watched the Goonies and it was fine. We grew up in a wild time.
Yeah. I
Ren and
remember.
Stimpy was
Sorry,
on,
go ahead.
Ren and Stimpy, on
Yeah.
Nickelodeon. That is not a kid show, but I don't know. I guess our parents were like out back drinking Bartles and James, man, and just letting us live our lives.
Ren and Stimpy was hilarious. The only thing that really got me was those extreme close-ups. Like they
Oh
would just make
yeah.
them so gross. It'd be like him puking or like just whatever eating, and it was just like it was like the grossest images you've ever seen in your life, but in like extreme close-up cartoon version.
Oh, it was, and it was just so absolutely disturbing. I still
Mhm.
remember. I don't know any of the context for this, Jordan, but you watched it too. I just remember there was a talking horse in the show, and Ren and Stimpy knocked at his door, and he opened the door and said, "Call the police." And that gave me nightmares for like a year. So I don't know, man. Mom and Dad, you should have done a better job checking out some of the stuff that I watched. I might not have
Oh
been
my
a
god.
horror writer if you had.
You're bringing back all kinds of. You're unlocking memories right now for me, like Powdered Toast Man. I'm just
Yes.
remembering Powdered Toast Man. I don't remember anything beyond that. I think there was a song, maybe something about a slinky. Like I gotta watch.
It, it was Log, Jordan. Yes,
The
yes, yes. It was
log. Yes,
Log.
it's log. It's log. It's big. It's heavy. It's wood.
It's it's better than bad. It's good.
It's better than bad. It's good.
Oh my gosh. And what was the song they sang? Happy, happy, joy, joy.
Yes. Yeah.
And even that was terrible. Good Lord. Now I remember everything about the show, I guess. Because who was it? The guy that sang it was called Stinky Weasel Teats. And halfway through the song, he says, "I'll teach you to be happy. I'll teach your grandma to be happy. I'll teach your grandma to suck eggs." Like that was such a weird kid show.
It was so bizarre. I'm trying to think of anything analogous to it nowadays, and I can't think of anything that's even remotely close. Like Adventure Time is so much more toned down than that show. And like Adventure Time
It,
gets pretty
yeah.
weird sometimes too, but like not even close to being as weird as that show was.
No, no, not at all. And I don't know, man, like maybe Rick and Morty. I know it didn't go that far,
Yeah.
but I mean, just purely absurdist humor. Anyway, that was the weirdest tangent I could have gotten off on there. So, my apologies, man. Let's get back to talking about your stuff. So, so we're talking about a lot about Hollow's End. I'll ask you about some other things later, but I love it, so I want to talk about it. So tell me how that got started. Where did the idea come from? How did it grow from seemingly pretty simple roots to becoming this kind of spanning mythology?
So I don't know if I ever planned it to become what it is, like even remotely close to what it is. I think the first one I wrote was the cable guy. I'm a cable guy in the world's creepiest little town called Hollow's End, and I basically was just trying to. It was pretty early on in me writing on No Sleep, and I was kind of just trying to write what I know, which is, any new writer, that's what you're trying to do is write what you know.
Right.
And I had been a cable guy, and I thought, I'd done a few stories based on previous jobs I'd had, like security guard in a mental hospital and whatnot. So I thought, I'll try to maybe write a story from a cable guy's perspective. It's kind of a weird job. You're going into 10 different houses
Sure.
every day, meeting 10 different families. Um, so yeah, I wrote that as a series, and I was really happy with how it turned out. Um, Kind of started to flesh out some of these characters, filling in this town, the details of the different people in town. The butcher was in that one, and the sisters who were like a coven of witches. Um, I think that was about it. Oh, and Verdun. Like, there's certain characters who kind of popped up in that that would make appearances again later on. But then I didn't really think about it. After I wrote that, I didn't really think about it again for a while. Lighthouse Horror narrated that first one, and it did really well. And I think maybe seeing the views and the feedback from that narration made me think like, okay, this is, this could be something maybe. And then later on, I was trying to come up with another series idea, and again, kind of writing what I knew, which was I had a previous job as a delivery driver, delivering, pizza, beer, kind of everything. So I said, hey, I'll try to write another series. Let's make it take place in Hollow's End again, and it can be a delivery man who delivers stuff to monsters, pizza and beer,
Right.
whatever. But there's not just monsters in this town of Hollow's End. There's also people. So he's dealing with a bit of both, right? And I think it was either during writing that or when I finished writing it, I kind of realized like it was something special. Like I could just picture it as like a cartoon, like an animated series, and I started thinking like, this kind of is something. Like this feels like it's like it could be something. And then when I started doing the YouTube stuff, I narrated that one, and that was the first video I ever had that went viral, I guess you could say. And it was about 8 months after I posted it. All of a sudden, it started skyrocketing in views, got like close to 100,000 views, and
So
um, so
keep
yeah,
going.
at that point, I said, I was thinking of a new series at that point when this started kind of skyrocketing. I said, I really want to do another series in Hollow's End, and what would be a good occupation perspective in Hollow's End? And I came up with the idea of a sheriff, and I thought, people love reading police stories. I like reading police stories, detective mystery type stuff. So I thought this is a good angle. And during writing that, I came up with the deputy character, and I think it was after I posted that one went even more viral than the monster delivery man, and I think it's sitting around 180 or 190,000 views at this
Hey,
point.
not too
Which,
shabby.
yeah, 190,000 views. So it's my second most viewed video as of right now. So yeah, it kind of snowballed from there. I realized that I first of all I really like writing this character and this about this town. There's a lot that could potentially be happening here, and I realized that people related to it and people liked it. And as an author, I'm sure you've had this feeling as an author yourself of where you post something and you start to get a lot of positive feedback, and it's like, wow, maybe this really is something. Maybe I need to do more of this, and it kind of feeds into itself. And the more positive feedback you get, the more you want to keep writing it. And I feel like it's just a self-sustaining thing at this point where I really enjoy telling the story, and I want to just continue telling the story. So I hope people just want to continue hearing it.
I can't imagine that they wouldn't. And I've got to say, out of all of that, I liked hearing that you said you kind of visualized that as an animated series. And I would have a question for you on that, just more of a well wish. If anybody out there with millions of dollars or an animation production company is listening, just know Jordan Group would love to make a Hollow's End cartoon. So I just think that's
Absolutely.
worth highlighting here.
Yeah, I can almost picture it more as a cartoon than I can as a live action, but I could picture it either way. But it's so zany and kind of wacky sometimes that I can't help but picture it as a cartoon, especially certain characters like the monster delivery man.
Oh, absolutely. No, it is a delightfully silly, scary story, and yeah, I would eat that up as a TV series, man. I think that would be pretty fantastic. So let's dig a little deeper. Let's go back in your career, talk about what you've done here in the writing world. So I don't know off the top of my head. I know you've been on Reddit since 2018, and you've put out a litany of really really good stories. And it seems so. I went digging a couple of days ago, and the very first video on your YouTube channel is the first chapter of Beneath the Asylum, right?
Yep, that's correct.
And so you did that video all the way back on February 9th of 2021. So when you made that video at the time, had you given any thought of expanding the channel into what you're doing now, or was that more of a promotional work to try to get the word about the book out? What was your goal when you started the channel?
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to remember at this point what kind of motivated me to post that very first video. I think it was a combination of wanting to promote the book because my first novel, first book that I'd ever had released. Um, but also, I think at a certain point there was also this feeling of like, all these other big narrators are narrating all these stories from YouTube or from Reddit, and as a writer yourself, you've also had this experience of seeing something you wrote get picked up by a narrator, and all of a sudden it gets, you know, 100 times more views than it did on Reddit, and they're making money off your story, and there's at a certain point you start feeling like, why don't I just do this myself? Like, I got a voice, I can read a story, and um, like, why should I let them have all the fun? Why should I let them read all my stories and kind of get the credit for it and get the accolades and everything? Like, hey, I can read my stuff too. And so at a certain point, I just started saying like, hey, I'm gonna just pick some of my favorite stories and just start reading them on Reddit or on YouTube. And if people want to watch them, then great.
Well, at almost 60,000 subscribers later, it seems like you were onto something, man. I love listening to your channel. It's one of my few weekly listens. It's middle-aged little kids. Time is at a premium, but I've always got time to listen to what you're putting on your channel, and you always do superb work. I really really enjoy listening to an author narrate their own work, and that does not always go well. I don't know if you're an audiobook person. I'm a big Stephen King fan. I think he's fantastic. Uh, but if
Yep.
you listen to him narrate his own work, it is not so great. Um, it's not that it's bad. It's just Stephen King has this really really distinct speaking voice, and so I never really get over that hump of saying like, that's it's Stephen King. Read me a story. You really, yeah, you really suck in the listener. At a point I finally get over that. Hey, this is my buddy Jordan, and I really feel like I'm listening to this story taking place, and so it's a pretty big treat to hear you read so much of your own work. But you also read a lot of work from other people. How do you find stories? How does that process go when you get stories from other writers?
So at this point, I'm a lot more about specific authors than kind of going on No Sleep and trying to find a story. Um, so like, I'm very fortunate that I have friends like you and like Ren and Head of Spectre, Travis, so many different people who I've gotten a chance to get to know over the years writing on Reddit, and I know you guys are talented. So it's not even a matter of like, oh, I need to try to find new stories today. It's more like I reach out to my friends and I say, hey, do you have anything that you think would be good for YouTube, or I look through your through the story lists of people that I chat with regularly and say, oh, hey, these ones look interesting. Can I read these on the channel? And I feel like it's a really good way to do it because like it's it's so hard to find good authors. Like it's kind of rare to find really really good authors on Reddit. And like you might find a good story every once in a while, but there's a lot of very short ones. There's a lot of ones with spelling, grammar errors. Maybe you have a good premise, but you finish it and you don't feel totally satisfied. So yeah, a lot of it's just reaching out to people who I know are good and consistent and creative, and just working with people who I know are very talented writers.
Well, that, that is some really good insight there, and I also appreciate the compliment, man. I feel the same way about your work. You are a superb writer. But tell me a little bit about that. What makes a good writer when you're reading? When you're well, let me try to ask you this two different ways. What is it that makes a writer talented to you? What do you look for? What makes things successful? And then what elements do you apply to your writing to try to be the best writer that you're able to be?
Good question. I think having a having strong characters is so important. Like especially for a long series. Writers like Zero, writers like yourself, Beardify, Had a Spectre. Like there's a lot of writers, Girl from the Crypt, who do these long series, and they're really good at creating sympathetic, likable characters who you want to read more about. And to me, that's key. Is the characters have to be good. The story itself has to be well written. Obviously, there's got to be a beginning, a middle, and end, and it's got to feel satisfying. Like I don't know, um, it's such a hard thing to quantify and say like what makes a good story because stories are so different across the board. And one great story and another great story are gonna have a lot of the time have nothing in common, except that they have strong characters, a strong story with a good beginning, middle, and end. And yeah, I think one thing in terms of horror specifically that I'm realizing more and more is that showing showing the monster, showing the evil thing is not necessarily as important as teasing it. Like the suspense before seeing the monster or seeing the bad guy is a lot more important than the actual reveal of the bad guy. Um,
Kind of the Jaws theory. You know,
exactly. Yeah.
don't show the shark the entire movie.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a perfect example of it. Like Godzilla, another good example. Like if I remember going to see the new Godzilla, and it's not new anymore. I mean, this was like 10, 15 years ago. But when it came out with Matthew Broderick, and I
Right.
just remember being amazed at how long that movie went on without them showing anything, anything of the monster. And then finally you get a glimpse of a foot, and it's so much more terrifying than if you actually showed Godzilla. Like it's so much more terrifying just seeing these people on the street scrambling to get inside somewhere because there's this heavy vibration and there's cars flipping over off screen and there's screams in the distance and explosions in the distance and you don't know what's causing it. Than to just look up, pan up, and see, oh, this giant scary monster. Like one is so much more viscerally frightening than the other.
Yeah, that, absolutely, I agree. And the showing and not telling, I guess it's not an exact comparison, but one of the most, I guess, gut wrenching scenes in a movie that I've seen is in Seven, when Brad Pitt's detective character, gets the box, and so do you know what scene I'm talking about? Have
What's
you
in the
seen Seven?
box?
Yeah, what's in the box?
What's in the
And
box?
so what was in the box, Jordan? Do you remember?
I believe it was a head in the box.
Yeah, did they show you?
I don't think they did. Did
No,
they?
they didn't. No. But you knew it was even all of this time later. You remembered the line, you remembered the scene, and you knew what was in that box.
Hmm.
And yeah, it never showed you.
And Brad Pitt was fantastic in that scene. Like, you genuinely, like, your heart hurts for Brad Pitt as you're watching that scene.
Oh, it
When
was
he,
anguishing, man. It was
oh,
terrible. And it's but to me that is just such the perfect example that let's say, was it David Fincher directed that, didn't he?
yeah, I believe you're right. Yeah.
Just the way that he set the scene up, I kind of feel like the movie and the writing and the acting culminated together to do such a good job that sometimes I have to remind myself that, like, it never showed us what was in the box. We just understood.
Mhm.
And that is so much worse. Could you imagine if they were like, "Oh, here's Gwyneth Paltrow's head in the box. Like, here's the picture of it."
Yeah,
It's worse because you're
yeah,
just watching him experience this awful thing, and it's just showing you, this raw emotion. So I think you just hit the nail on the head. It is an important thing to do, and it seems like that subtlety is very, very difficult to get a hold of for a lot of people.
yeah. And you just reminded me, I actually did write a story with an actual literal head in a box where one character finds another character's head in a box. And I remember writing that and feeling like this is too over the top. And I did leave it in, but um, there was something about seeing the actual head in the box that just felt over the top to me. And looking back on that story, if I hadn't actually described that, if I had just said, she looked in the box and she screamed, to me that's so much more terrifying and leaves you with so much more suspense and uncertainty than saying she looked in the box and found her friend's head inside.
Yeah, and how long ago did you write that story?
Probably three years ago or more.
Well, and think about how many words you've written, how many stories you've finished in those 3 years. It's easy to look back at missed opportunities, but there has to be growth as a writer, and especially the kind of little weird world we live in. We're not Paul Tremblay, we're not Stephen King.
Mhm.
You're very unlikely to walk into Barnes and Noble and see our smiling little faces sitting on the shelf. Uh, we were weekend warrior writers. It was something we started for fun that became a little bit more than a hobby. Um,
Yeah.
and so I guess the thing that a lot of top tier professional writers don't do is grow as a writer with an audience watching you do it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's so true. Yeah.
and I feel like that's. Yeah, I was talking to our friend Jesse Pullins about that. Not know our and so you about writing the head in the box. Like, yeah, 3 years later, sure, you can look back at that and see it as missed opportunity. But what it shows you is, hey, you've learned how to identify those things, and it shows that you've become a stronger writer in those years.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like every writer looks back on their older stuff and kind of winces a little bit and says like, "Ugh, this could be stronger." And it's not even that it's bad or anything like that. Like I don't look back on my old stuff and think it's bad. I just think I've grown since then, you know.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
I can look back now and see things where I just say like, man, I really thought I knew what I was doing, and I don't
Yeah.
know that I know what I'm doing now, Jordan, but I do know that I didn't know what I was doing then.
It's almost more intimidating now sometimes writing a story because you realize how little you know. It's like back then you like you when you're first starting out, you can kind of just naively write a story and just think like, it's not Stephen King, but it's good. I'm happy with it.
Sure.
And now it feels like sometimes you write a story and you're picking it apart so much as or me anyways, I'm picking it apart so much as I'm writing it because like you feel like you've grown, like you have all this new information now and you're trying to use it all. It's like trying to, I don't know if you golf at all, but it's like trying to take a golf swing and you're thinking of all the advice in your head. And if that's what you're thinking about, your swing is going to be terrible. Like you have to clear your mind and just write. And so I feel like it's definitely possible to overthink a story and try too hard.
Oh,
And sometimes we just got to let our
absolutely.
instincts take over.
Well, and I think I don't know. Maybe you have difficulty with this too. When I sit down to write a story, if it's a story that I just said, I'm going to write this. It's just a thing that I want to do. I can sit down and I can knock that out in a day or two, and then I read it and I say, I'm really pleased with this. It was fun. It was good. Now, the minute somebody else's money gets involved, somebody wants to hire me for a commission, that YouTube channel or a podcaster says, hey, we'd love to see that. all of a sudden, I wrote 10,000 words 3 days ago of something that had no destination, just something fun. As soon as you turn it into an assignment, I will stare at that page for hours.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
it can be a crippling sensation.
Yeah. It's been freeing writing for my own YouTube channel in that sense because I was doing commissions for so long and I was writing for Dr. No Sleep a lot, and a lot of the time he would give me a prompt. He would say, can you write a lockdown story or whatever the case may be, a hospital story. And I'd say, yeah, sure. And, I'd just write it. And, but yeah, there's a certain feeling you get when you're writing a commission or something that it feels like work as opposed to something that you're writing just for yourself. Like I personally find, I was talking with Saturday about this, and he's the perfect example of somebody who makes it not about work at all, because he gives away all of his stories for free. He
Yeah.
doesn't ask for money for anything, so he's literally just writing for himself and for other people who want to hear his stuff. And it was kind of cool hearing him talk about it because it is literally that it's such a huge difference going from writing for yourself versus writing for a podcast. All of a sudden it becomes a job instead of entertainment for yourself. And we both were sharing that same experience of writing is entertaining for me. Like I find writing freeing and entertaining and fun if it's for me. But as soon as you start to write
Yes.
for work, it becomes an assignment and homework, and it's like, oh, I gotta force myself to sit down and write this, you know?
Well, there's not a lot of times. I mean, you've tapped into something there that's extremely true, and Saturday as well. It should be fun, and that's how all of this started out. I've got to imagine for all of us. But once it's an assignment, once it's something that has to be completed, here's the thing: if I write a bad story on my own and I have a good time doing it, and whatever, like no time wasted, nothing went wrong. The story's just not great, but that's okay. But I don't know if you get a hold of me and say, "Hey, man, I need 10,000 words on somebody finding a bunker full of, people that have been trapped underground since World War II, and I need that in a week." Here, okay, I can probably do that. I can probably do that. Here's the issue that is introduced, and that is now it has to be good.
Yeah.
I can't bring you a terrible version of this thing that I've agreed to do for you for money. Uh, and so it adds a layer of pressure that writers who don't sell their work, don't try to sell their work, uh, it's got to be fairly liberating because the work just gets to be what it is. But if I contract with somebody, that is I have to deliver, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah. It it doesn't feel like it should make such a difference, but it really does make a difference, especially when you do it for a sustained period of time. Um, yeah, I started to feel it more acutely after writing for about a year and a half, 2 years for Doctor No Sleep. After a while, it started to feel like this is my second job, basically. And
Oh yeah.
it's not to say that I didn't enjoy it. There's definitely stories. There's a lot of stories that I wrote for him that I really loved writing and that I think are really great. And I love them. Like the psychic medium story, I feel like is one of the funniest, like one of the best stories I've written. I love that
Oh,
story.
dude, it was good. I loved that.
Thanks. But um, yeah, it's at a certain point it becomes a second job, and yeah, it is liberating writing stuff just for my channel, like the mall story. Like I had that idea and I was like, I want to write a hunting human story, so I'm just gonna write this. And to be able to just write that and not have to worry about a timeline or whether somebody else is gonna like it, whether the podcast that I'm writing it for is gonna like it. Yeah, it just opens you up to feel like this isn't work all of a sudden. This is just for me, you know?
And that is a great way to operate. Well, Jordan, tell me this, man. What's the future looking like for you? Do you have any projects that are in the pipes you're excited about? Any kind of long gestating projects that are popping up soon? What's going on with your publishing? Just tell us what the next couple of months to a year looks like for you.
So working on more Hollow's End. I'm not sure when this is released, where I'll be at with Hollow's End, but working on the kind of continuing storyline of the town right now, where there's basically this entity that resurfaces every few decades, which the town has to fight against. But it's this big dark entity that kind of resurfaces every few decades,
Sure.
called Grothrock, and so that's kind of the focus of that right now. Um, in terms of publishing, I have one more book to do for my current publisher, Manor House Publishing. So that should be coming out hopefully within the next year or so. I have a couple potential manuscripts to send him for that. Um, but yeah, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like just yet, but it's probably going to be a dark fantasy slash comedy slash horror type of thing, novel for sure.
Oh, you writing
Um,
horror humor fiction? Never, never.
but more like fantasy vibes for sure than anything else that I've had published so far.
Okay.
Um, so that's the plan for that as of right now. Obviously, going to continue posting to YouTube. I'd like to just keep doing more one-off stories as well, and I'd like to start getting more into commissioning authors like yourself, and other writers to write stuff for the channel as well, and kind of open it up a little bit more so that there's more brand new stories that haven't been seen anywhere else before on the channel. I have one. We're recording this April 9th. I actually have one coming out tomorrow, April 10th, from Beardify, which he wrote exclusively for the channel and has not
Very
been seen anywhere
nice.
else yet. And it's a
Hey,
park ranger
John.
story.
John Beardify is one of the best. I'm looking forward to that.
He is an extremely talented writer. He's turning into one of my favorites, honestly.
He's
Yeah, his stuff is
prolific
always
too.
very consistently good.
Yes, absolutely. And he just something about Beardify. He just seems to be able to churn those stories out, and the quality does not suffer from the speed.
I was amazed. He wrote the story. I think I asked him for it, and then within, I want to say 3-4 days, he got back to me with this very well written park ranger story with kind of a Wendigo type element to it. And I was
Oh,
honestly, I was blown away. I was like, wow, you wrote this in like 3 days. Like this is really good for, especially for that amount of time. I mean, I would not have guessed that somebody wrote this in 3 days.
I mean, the fella is good at what he does. There's no arguing. And if anybody listening is not familiar, his name is Beardify. He works under John Beardify, and just an absolutely superbly talented writer.
Yeah, the by the time this comes out, the story will be up on the channel. It's called "I Took a Job as a Park Ranger. A man with antlers is stalking my family." And yeah, it was exclusively written for the channel, which is really cool. I've only had two of those, and the other one was written by you. Thank you. So thank you for that.
No, no problem at all, man. It's always a treat to work with you.
Yeah, you as well. I hope we can continue working together more on the channel, and you know keep
Some
growing and
something
everything.
something tells me I've got a couple of things for you.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to read them.
It's going to be fun stuff, man.
Do
So
you want to talk? Do you want to
so
talk about that actually? Do you want to share?
Jordan, that's up to you, buddy. This is your little spotlight, so uh, we'll follow your lead. You do what you need to do.
I'll say it because it might already, by the time this comes out, it might already be on the channel. So
Yeah. Could be.
for
It
those,
it is almost done. My favorite
okay.
trademark saying, almost done.
So for anybody who's not aware, because this is being recorded, weeks before it's being released, so this is kind of a weird time loop we're in right now talking about this. But um, Ryan Major, Gtripp14, is currently writing a Hollow's End story, which I asked him if he'd be interested in doing that because you follow the series and you're familiar with the setting and the characters. So, and I've been looking for I've been thinking about asking a couple writers for a while, one or two writers, if they'd be interested in this because it's becoming very daunting doing it just myself. And I really respect your writing. Your writing is always solid. So
Well,
I
thanks,
asked if
man.
I asked if you'd be interested in co-writing one with me, and you came up very quickly with a concept, which I love. And I get the feeling that there won't be much co-writing involved. I'll probably end up leaving it mostly as is. Maybe try to add a joke or two or something to it. I don't know.
Oh, it's
Um,
it's definitely going to need that Jordan Group touch, man. Do not cut yourself short here.
but when you told me the idea of the mortuary assistant, basically, who's Verdun's not predecessor, but his heir, or his you know
Air would be pretty accurate. Was
heir,
apprentice. Now he's taking over the business.
right? So basically, it's Verdun. Verdun was the mortician in the Cable Guy series, whose head was unceremoniously removed by an explosion. So I don't want to give too much away of what you're planning to do with it, but it's basically following the story of his heir running the mortuary in Hollow's End, correct?
Yes, man. I'd say that's a pretty apt description.
Yeah. So I'm excited to read it. I'm really psyched for that one. When you gave me the description of your general plot outline, I thought it was really is going to be really good.
Well, you've built such a just absolutely rich, ridiculous playground with Hollow's End that I don't know, it's hard to convey to other people. But Jordan, you're my friend, but I'm legitimately tickled that I get the opportunity to play in your sandbox, for a lack of a better term. The Hollow's End stories are just so damn good. Uh, and I'm sure everybody feels like, well, you got to get on there and say nice things. It's your writing is not anything that I've ever had to give false praise to. I love Hollow's End, and so, man, it's just like being given keys to the candy store, dude. I've had a blast, and and you let me write this story is a privilege because it lets me do something I don't do very much, which is uh, just be silly, have fun, try to I'm just writing just a pure entertainment escapism story, and it has just been so damn fun to get to play in that sandbox for a little bit, man. I'm having a blast.
I feel like you're really suited for it because, like, I don't know, your Mr. Deacon series and certain ones you've written have this really kind of like dark comedy, kind of whimsical nature to them. So I feel like it'll fit right in
Well,
with the universe.
well, I appreciate that. Maybe one day Mr. Deacon will open a what is it? What do they call that? A hiring company, personnel company. Maybe he'll come down there and start filling some jobs in down in Hollow's End.
A temp agency in Hollow's End.
Yes, temp agency. Yeah, Deacon's temp agency. Yeah, I think he escaped your town, man. He's the only one that made it out, but we'll have to make him go back.
Now
But no, it's
working for a temp agency, that is an actual horror story. I
yeah,
remember.
yeah. I think we've probably all been there, and I agree. I once worked for a temp agency for Amazon, and that was
Ooh,
scarier than any story I've ever written.
yeah, that sounds a little scary. I worked at a temp agency, I think for a summer, and they sent me to just a bunch of different factory jobs. And I worked at a waffle factory. I worked at a just every different kind of factory you can imagine, and it made me realize I didn't really like working in factories. No offense to anybody who works in a factory.
No,
It
no,
just
no. I mean, it's good, honest work, man. But
a lot of
industrial
respect.
waffles. Yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't sound like soul satisfying work.
it's cold. You're in a freezer all day, and yeah, I got a lot of respect for anybody who works doing factory work or any manual labor job where you're up on your feet all day working. Like, I mean, I was a nurse
Oh,
for 7 years, and being up on your feet working all day is it's not easy.
it is absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
Well, Jordan, man, I've taken up a lot of your time. So to close it out, yeah, surely people know where to find you. But tell us, where can we find your work to listen to, and where can we find physical copies of your books to purchase?
Jordan Group Horror is the YouTube channel. Um, Jordan Group, basically youtube.com at Jordan Group will get you there. On Reddit, I'm J Group. And yeah, Jordan Group on all the social medias. And on Amazon, you can find my books Beneath the Asylum, No Sleep Tonight, Escape from the Asylum, and From the Darkness are my four books. And do you want to give us a little plug for your stuff as well while you're here, so we can as a
Oh,
quick thank you for your time? I feel like
uh,
I really appreciate you helping me out with this.
man, that's no problem. I'll do the shortest plug in history. Uh, really, if you want to see some really good quality renditions of my work, I highly recommend going to Jordan Group Horror on YouTube and looking for the G-Trip playlist if you'd like to hear any of my stories. And I'm going to be sneaky and make sure my shout out for my work actually just goes right back to your work because we're talking about you today, man.
Well, you also have a book called I've Done This Before on Amazon
You're a sneaky dude, man. Yeah,
by
yeah,
Belloc Books.
it is on there. But if you're only going to
Okay.
buy one book today, make sure it's a Jordan Group book.
I really
Jordan,
appreciate you doing this, man.
hey man, it's been a blast. Thank you so much for letting me come on here and do this. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. So hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe we can do another big group chat with a few authors like when we did with Midnight All Day back in the day.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're going to twist my arm, I guess I would do it.
Give we'll feed Deco a few drinks and see what happens.
Uh, yeah, you know what? I'm going to give Deco a freebie and not. Yeah, yeah. Let's do that though. But this time maybe no video.
Okay, no video. All right, man.
Oh, hey Jordan, take it easy. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening, guys.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Later, buddy.
Okay, that's it for this last fireside chat in this first series of 6 interviews. I always love chatting with G-Trip and hearing his take on things. Hopefully, you all enjoyed the talk as well. Please leave any additional questions you might have in the comments, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. In addition, I'm trying to decide what else would be fun to do on this side channel, so let me know if you have any suggestions. Would you like to see more author interviews, short horror stories, writing advice, or maybe breakdowns of other Reddit stories? Thanks for listening, everyone. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode of the Grupe Project to help this new channel grow. I'll be back in the future with more on this new channel, and I'll announce ahead of time on the main feed. Thanks, everyone, and I hope you have a great night.